Hi, it's James here from Food Matters, and welcome to Day 7 of the Total Wellness Summit. I'm your host, filmmaker, and founder of Food Matters and FMTV, and today's topic is The Truth About Cancer, sponsored by Ty Bollinger of The Truth About Cancer. The expert interview is with Chris Wark, where he talks about his personal journey with healing cancer naturally, his day-to-day non-negotiables for health and well-being, which supplements he swears by, and his top cancer-fighting foods. It's an awesome interview. He's such a relaxed and incredible person. I love speaking with him. The documentary is A Quest for Cancer Continues special documentary excerpt for today, and it's from the guys at Truth About Cancer. It's a really fantastic docuseries, and that's going to be playing. We also have a potassium balance broth as today's recipe, and the mindfulness video is Long Deep Breathing by Ashley on FMTV. And don't forget, if you purchase one of the Summit packs before midnight, March 31st, especially the digital and physical pack, which includes online access, the flash drive and vitality pack, you'll receive over $126 in savings, a 1-year pass to FMTV, which is the Netflix for health and wellness, which includes a growing library of over 600 documentaries, expert interviews, recipe tutorials, yoga classes, programs, and so much more. You'll receive instant access to the entire summit, which is hosted on FMTV, a flash drive with all the expert interviews, yoga and mindfulness videos, and the recipes to keep and watch whenever you want, a Food Matters recipe book, plus the inspirational magnet pack, and you'll also receive over $300 in digital bonuses from our awesome sponsors. I really hope you enjoy today. It's a topic that touches all of us these days, and I hope that this information can help transform that and the lives of many people for the better. See you tomorrow. Hi, it's James here from Food Matters, and welcome to this special interview with Chris Wark. Chris was a real estate investor and musician and was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2003 at only 26 years of age. After surgery, he refused chemotherapy and chose nutrition and natural therapies to heal his body. In 2010, he went public with his story and mission to inspire people to take control of their health and reverse disease with a radical transformation of diet and lifestyle. Today, Chris is an active blogger, speaker, and personal health coach with clients all over the world, including celebrities and medical doctors. He has made many appearances on radio and television, including The Ricky Lake Show and The Lisa Rose Show, love her, and he frequently speaks at health and wellness events around the country. Chris has reached millions of people through his YouTube channel and website, Chris Beats Cancer. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show. Great to speak with you.
Hey, James. And I guess we should be specific about which country you're talking about in my bio, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're in the U.S., right?
Yes, U.S. mostly, right.
And
Yep.
I'm dialing in. We're dialing in from the Food Matters Australian headquarters, which is
Yes.
on the Sunshine Coast. So the sun is setting there, and it's early morning here.
Yeah, that's right. It's 4 o'clock here, and it's, what, 10 for you?
It's actually just after 8, so you can see there's not many people in the office yet. We've got a few people here, Rachel and so forth. So, for people that, want to learn more about your story, I've got some great questions here, but just tell us how the journey was for you from, diagnosis to where you are today, a little bit about, what that was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a long story. I'm going to keep it as short as possible, but I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26. And, man, at the time, I thought I had an ulcer, right? I had some abdominal pain. I ignored it for the better part of a year, and I was just a really busy guy. I was investing in real estate, starting a business, and I just didn't have time to get sick.
Mm.
And I had always believed that the body is a self-healing organism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And throughout my life, anytime I'd hurt myself, my body had healed. And so I just figured whatever was wrong would eventually get better.
Sure.
But in this case, it didn't. And over the course of the year, it just progressively got worse and worse. And it wasn't the kind of thing where I needed to go see a doctor right away, because it was just sort of a nagging, little ache or pain that would come and go. And, it didn't really interfere with my life at all. But the pain gradually increased. And so by the fall of 2003, man, it was really painful.
Mm.
After I would eat, it was strange. I'd wake up in the morning, no pain, and get on with my day, and then usually after lunch, between lunch and dinner, I would just like start to feel it, just start to get these twinges of pain, these sharp pains. I'm like, man, what is that?
Yeah.
And then it would go away, and then it would come back after dinner. An hour or two after dinner, I'd feel it again. So eventually I went to the doctors about it, and they misdiagnosed it as an ulcer, gave me some medication that didn't work. Then I got a colonoscopy, and they found a golf ball-sized tumor in my large intestine, right?
Jeez.
That's the colon.
Yeah.
So it was on the right side, which is right by your appendix. And, man, the cancer wasn't even on my radar.
Especially at that age, you're invincible when you're 26.
Yeah. 26 years old. And now I hadn't been feeling great. Besides those pains, I definitely had felt like low energy, and I was really running on sugar and caffeine, just to get through the day. But anyway, so they found this tumor, and they're like, at that point in my life, I was just typical Joe cancer patient. I had no experience with cancer, never had any friends or family go through it, totally clueless. And, they said, look, you got this tumor. We got to get you in surgery right away before this spreads and kills you. Mm. And so, I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? Like,
jeez.
Whatever
and
you say, doc.
What were the thoughts that went through your mind when that first happened? I mean, was it fear, or was it, look, I'm just going to go get it cut out and this will be fine, or did you?
Yeah, well, the first, when they told me, I was completely drugged up because I just come out of the colonoscopy, right?
Yeah.
So I was like not even sober when they told me. So it just felt like a dream that didn't make any sense.
Jeez.
I'm just like, what? Like,
yeah.
So my wife was there, and she was just, sobbing and like really upset, and I was just kind of in a daze.
Yeah.
But as the reality sank in, it was like, man, this doesn't even make sense. Like I'm the cancer guy now. And I was like really frustrated and confused and unhappy about it. Mm. And of course a little bit fearful, but at that time, the doctors just said, look, all you're going to need is surgery. We just you need to have the surgery. It's a routine procedure. We just take out a section of your large intestine, a third of it, won't affect your quality of life, and you'll be fine. So I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, it's 2 days before Christmas when I found this out, so
happy holidays.
Yeah. I was like, man, this is not what I wanted, Santa.
No.
So anyway, we postponed the surgery a week because I didn't want to be in the hospital over Christmas. So on December 30th, went in, they cut out a third of my large intestine. And when the surgeon, they were going to do laparoscopic surgery, which is where they put a camera in, right? They cut a couple small holes, put a camera in, look around. And they did that. And he said, I didn't like what I saw. He said, it looked a lot worse than we thought. So they just, cut me open, old school style, right? Just right in the middle, cut me open right through my belly button. And took out a third of my large intestine, and it had spread to some lymph nodes. He took out a bunch of lymph nodes, trying to get clear margins.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, they told the family that I was stage 3C. Mm-hmm. I was still, unconscious. So the family was all freaking out because they're like, it's a lot worse than we thought, And I'm just, again, out of it. Mm. So when I came to, they told me, and they said, look, you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. They brought in this oncologist, whatever. They're just like, here's an oncologist for you.
Yeah.
And so at that time I was just like, okay, like I guess this is my life now. I mean, it all happened so fast,
Yeah,
right?
wow.
And that's the thing about the cancer industry. I mean, they use fear
Mm,
to rush patients
mm,
into treatment. Okay, I mean, they wanted to have me in surgery within a day or two of the
yeah,
diagnosis, right? I mean, I put it off a week, but that's still
yeah,
not much time,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm often asked, what would you tell cancer patients now, like
Mm,
knowing what you know now? And I would say, like, don't rush into anything.
yeah,
You really need to take some time to evaluate your life. The cancer didn't pop up overnight in most cases. It's
yeah.
been growing a long time, slowly, and you have time
Mm,
to, just to step back and really assess your life.
sure.
And I think, one of the things I tell every cancer patient is, if you have cancer, then you must assume that the way you're living is killing you.
Sure.
And I don't say that to make someone feel bad about themselves, to blame themselves or feel ashamed or anything. I say it because personal responsibility is really important. We know there are so many diet and lifestyle causes of cancer,
Mm,
which I'll get into, but just to sort of paint the broad brushstrokes here. And so, you really got to take a hard look at your life, right? And I didn't have time to do that. I was just rushed right in. So I had the surgery. I'm in the hospital. The first meal that they served me in the hospital.
this is what I want to know. Like, what was it like post this surgery? Like, what happened as far as nutrition or
Yeah,
advice?
the very first meal, the first thing they did in the hospital, like when I woke up from surgery, they put this DVD in called Food Matters. Okay. Yeah. So they brought me a meal which is called a Sloppy Joe.
Oh my goodness. You're
You know what that
joking.
is?
Of course I know what a sloppy Joe
Yeah.
is.
That
I mean,
was the
I've lived
first
in the
meal, man.
States. I'm familiar with the
Yeah,
vernacular
they cut
around food.
a third of my large intestine, and they're like, "Here you go. Here's the Sloppy Joe," which
Wow.
is, like some kind of mystery meat with barbecue sauce on a burger bun.
And a burger bun. Yeah. Whoa.
And I remember looking at it and just thinking, I should I be? I mean, I was heavily medicated, right?
Yeah.
But I was still like, this doesn't seem like the best food for me right now.
And how was your innate intelligence around food and nutrition at that time? Was there part of you that knew, hang on, I need to not do that? Or were you not sort of turned on to nutrition and health at this stage?
Well, that's a great question. So my mom's always been a health food nut. Okay. And much less so than the health food nuts of today.
Sure.
Right. But she was always into health food. There was like a couple little health food stores that she would shop at, and she would buy whole grain bread instead of white bread, and she would buy, the peanut butter you have to stir up instead of the sugary peanut butter. So she would always had sprouts in the fridge and stuff like that, and kefir. So like I grew up, kind of understanding that health food was a thing, right? Yeah. And I even worked at a grocery store called Wild Oats.
Oh yeah, I know it.
Got bought out by Whole Foods.
That's right.
In college. So yeah, like I had a background on eating healthy. I wasn't eating healthy at all. I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I was eating junk food and fast food every day, tons of meat and dairy, just the standard Western diet, standard American diet. But so yeah, I had this background, like I guess you could say a foundation of like healthy eating principles. But I really didn't know what to do, and I didn't really, I didn't really think that changing my diet, would help me that much. Okay, at the time. So they served me the Sloppy Joe, and of course my instincts are like, this is like the worst cafeteria food I can think of.
And you've just been through colon surgery.
Yeah, and they're serving it in the hospital to sick people, right? Like, so that was the red flag, right? That was the first red flag. Second red flag was the day that I was leaving the hospital. The surgeon came in to do his final round with me, final visit with me, and we were just talking about going home and stuff. And I said, hey, is there any food I need to like not avoid or whatever?
Good question.
And yeah, I mean, I didn't. The funny thing is I just didn't want to go home and like eat some hot sauce and like melt the stitches or something.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything, and he was like, nah, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
Wow.
That was it. That was the nutrition advice.
Don't lift anything heavier than a beer. Was it? Well, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, are
So,
you shocked when you think back about that now? I mean,
of course, no,
yeah,
I mean, at the time, I laughed,
yeah.
this sort of like uncomfortable, like, kind of laugh. But, but the truth is, yeah, I was like, that was not the answer I was expecting.
Yeah.
And it was like red flag number 2, the way I describe it in the hospital, because I'm like, man, like no one in the medical, I mean, not, I'm saying no one, but
Mm.
no one at this hospital that I've interacted with seems to care anything about nutrition.
Hmm.
They don't think your diet matters at all. And I knew it did. I knew it mattered to some degree. So, I mean, I knew the difference between junk food. I knew the difference between, a candy bar and an apple,
Yeah.
right? Like junk food and like whole food from the earth. So at that point, I was still pretty lost, but I was on, again, heavy pain medication, but the wheels were kind of turning.
Yeah.
And we go home, and my wife and I are Christians, and we prayed about it. And I was just like, God, if there's another way, just show me, because I was just really, really conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of poisoning my way back to health did not make sense. I couldn't make sense of it. And again, I'd never even seen anybody suffer through chemo treatments. Like, I'd never even seen anybody go through it. I just knew it was poison.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen a few cancer patients just out in the world, just anonymous people basically, and thought, man, like those people look so bad. It's so scary, right? I mean, no hair, their skin is like yellow, and I mean, usually they're bloated from the steroids, or sometimes they're emaciated, but I'd seen enough to be a little bit concerned about it.
Yeah.
So we my wife and I prayed about it again. I was like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, if there's another way, just show me. And 2 days later, I got a book that was sent to me from a man in Alaska who knew my dad.
Uh-huh.
And I've never met this guy, but he was a business acquaintance of my dad's, and he was made a pretty bold move sending me this book, considering that he had a business relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
But he sent me a very controversial book called God's Way to Ultimate Health.
Mm-hmm.
And
he knew about your diagnosis, though, and what had happened and the surgery?
Yeah,
Okay.
Because he and my dad are actually friends, too. They were business acquaintances, did business together, but they had become friends, too.
Sure.
And the subtitle to the book is Eliminating Sickness Through Nutrition, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I get this book, and I'm like, okay, what's this about? And I start reading it, and I learned very quickly that the man who wrote the book, George Malcolmus, had colon cancer and did not have surgery, chemo, or radiation, and radically changed his diet, converted to a raw food diet, and started juicing carrots. And within a year, his tumor was gone. And I'm like, okay, this looks like an answer to prayer right here.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, in fact, I was pretty convinced. Like, I asked for something,
and then
here
that
it
came.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy had colon cancer just like me, and it was about nutrition. And it's a great book. I mean, he just builds a case for nutrition, and he also talks a lot about how he saw his mom suffer and die through conventional cancer treatment, and has seen so many other people. He was a pastor, so he saw a lot of people go through cancer treatment, suffer and die. And I was like, man, this is it. I'm doing it, like, right now. I'm starting right now. Raw food diet, And so I'm like, where do I find? I got to get a juicer. Like, where do you get those? So I think at that time, Whole Foods used to sell juicers. So I bought a Champion juicer from Whole Foods. Yeah. And the 25-pound bag of carrots. Juicing carrots. Yeah. And then I just I go in the produce aisle, and I'm like, what is all this stuff? Like, all right, like I need to eat a whole lot of this stuff right here, like vegetables. So I even got some raw food cookbooks, but I realized pretty quickly I'm an essentialist, right? I'm really, really kind of minimalist, essentialist guy. Yeah. And I started flipping through these raw food cookbooks, and it was like dehydrating stuff and
too much hard work.
all this food prep. Yeah, it was like all this food prep for like some little like hummus or something.
You're a 26-year-old guy. You want like maximum return on your time in the kitchen, right?
Yes.
It's like and I've got 3 minutes, and I want something amazing, and then I'm out.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
I get it.
So,
I understand.
Yeah, and I wasn't into cooking. I wasn't into food preparation anyway. So it was like, man, I ain't got time for this.
Mm.
So I need to figure out like the biggest bang for my buck nutritionally and time wise. So I was like, I just need to eat giant salads every day. I mean, just like huge bowls of vegetables.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I just decided right away that's what I was going to do. So I started making these giant salads with what we know now are the most potent anti-cancer vegetables on earth. And, you know, I didn't even know that then. Later, I found all this great science that's like, you know, where they've tested plant extracts against cancer cells and all this wonderful stuff. But broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, spinach, onions, garlic, mushrooms, sauerkraut, and then I would top it off. I already said garlic, but top it off with garlic, cayenne pepper, Bragg sprinkle, oregano, and curry powder or turmeric.
The curry powders, those Vedic traditions, they're onto it with their spices. So So you've got, that's what your diet looked like basically. You were eating
so twice a day.
Yeah.
Twice a day I was eating the giant salad.
Like a big chopped salad. Everything chopped
lunch
out.
and dinner, man. It's fast food. You know, just breaking off some broccoli and just, you know, throwing everything in the bowl, a little bit of chopping, and then and I'd use a little Bragg olive oil or whatever, organic olive oil.
And when you first started on, because you were not eating a raw food diet before, when you started on that, was that like, oh, that felt a bit difficult or strange or weird, or did you it just work straight away?
You know, believe it or not, it actually just worked. It was okay. Like I didn't have any big problems with it. And I will say, I did forget one thing, the apple cider vinegar too. So the dressing was apple cider vinegar, little olive oil, and then of course all the spices. And it's delicious. Like it's great. You can squeeze a lemon on there too. So, but some people have a hard time when they convert to raw food, especially vegetables, because they don't have the right digestive bacteria.
Gut flora,
You know, exactly. Their gut flora is really is main for, basically they have gut flora for meat and dairy. You know? They don't have like fruit and vegetable gut flora. But for whatever reason, it wasn't that hard for me, and I just dove right in, and I was like, man, this is delicious. This is great. And I made these huge salads, and it filled me up, and I was feeling good. And then every morning I would make 64 ounces of vegetable juice.
Nice.
And that started with about 5 pounds of carrots, and then I would throw in some celery.
Did you said 64 ounces?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a solid juicing session.
Yeah. It was a good hour of running the juicer. You know, prepping the vegetables, running the juicer. You know, making all this juice. You
went way over your man time in the kitchen just then.
Way over, yeah. I mean, I'd have to break the juicer down a couple times during this because it would get so clogged up.
Keep it going, yeah.
But every morning, I mean, it was just like I just dialed it in. I made all the juice for the day. I made giant salads for lunch and dinner, and the juice would also have like ginger. So it was a real simple formula: mostly carrot, a little bit of celery and beet, and then some ginger root. Yeah. Of course, and you can go nuts and add all kinds of stuff to it. Like if I was doing it now, I'd probably add garlic and turmeric root to it.
Sure.
Green apple, lemon juice, like so. A person listening, you can definitely amp up your juice with all kinds of good stuff. But I was trying to keep it really simple and not have to think about my meals, right? Because it can get really stressful, like trying to plan your meals when you're trying to eat healthy. What do I eat now? What do I have? And I'm like, I'm going to eat the same thing every day. That's what I'm going to do. Same thing every day. So that's what I did. And then I would make fruit smoothies with organic berries, frozen organic berries, a banana, and like a fresh coconut. Blend that up and make like a smoothie for a snack. So juicing through the morning, usually didn't have breakfast, just juice through the morning, giant salads, juices all day. And that was it, man. That was the formula.
That's amazing. And so was it any sort of protocol or anything that you followed, or was that was just it? It was just like I ate really well. I juiced, I had salads, and I had a smoothie. You know, did you do like, I don't know, like hyperbaric medicine or colonics or coffee enemas, or I mean, was it just like that's what I did and that worked?
I did a lot. So what I just described is where I started.
Okay. So this is like week 3, week 4 after you got the book.
Exactly. Yeah, week 1 after I got the book.
Yeah,
right?
wow.
It was really 2 weeks after my diagnosis, or close to 3 weeks after my diagnosis is when I started this. And so there were some interesting things that happened like right at that time. One is, I don't want to jump too far ahead. As soon as I got the book, read half of it. Like I'm on the couch crying. That's how emotional it was because I knew it was the answer to prayer, man.
Yeah,
I knew it. Called my wife and I was like, I got this book and it's like this guy healed his cancer and like, it's a raw food diet and juicing and this is what I'm going to do. And she was like, what? Like, she's like, okay, you're still doing chemo, right? And I'm like, no, definitely not doing chemo. And because I just read this chapter in the book about how terrible chemo is.
Yeah.
And so, so then I start getting phone calls from other family members, like mostly her side of the family.
Sure.
And they're like, we heard we heard you're thinking about not doing chemo and, this is life or death. And don't you think if they knew there was something better, they'd be using it? And I didn't know how to answer those questions, right?
Yeah,
I was like,
they mean well. They mean well, but
oh yes, right. These are people who love me and want me to live. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But I went from no direction to like a clear plan of action to total confusion and distress because all these people were telling me I was making a mistake. Right? They're like, no, that's wrong, right? And I feel like I had this divine, answer, and everyone's like, nope, that's wrong. Don't do that. So now I've got all this fear and confusion and distress. And by the way, every cancer patient goes through this, especially if they're thinking about not doing conventional treatment. And every cancer patient is thinking about not doing conventional treatment.
Sure.
But there's so much pressure to follow the prescribed path, to do what your doctor says. Most cancer patients, they don't have the internal fortitude to say no. Yeah. Right. They just, because look, their parents are saying do it, their children are saying do it, their friends are saying do it, their doctors are saying do it. So I mean, everybody around them saying, no, you have to go this way. There's no other way. And so they're just like, okay.
And the language in medicine boxes people into this corner of do this or die, basically. Yeah, and that's a very that's one of the things that I believe needs overhauling more than anything else is the language they use around recommending treatments or after diagnosis in particular.
I'm so glad you said that because you're right. And the truth is, the cancer industry uses this very specific language that is fear-based because they know that fear motivates you, right? It's the greatest motivator there is, especially fear of death.
Fear and pain,
Yeah, so suffering, fear of suffering and death and fear of the unknown. So, but it's interesting that they use very militaristic language, right? It's the cancer industry has created this terminology around cancer that, you're a cancer warrior, that it's a battle, that it's a fight.
It's true,
right?
It's true, spot on.
And the reason that they created that language is because in war, there is suffering.
Sure.
And if they use war mentality and that war terminology, then it gets the cancer patient in a mental position to accept the suffering that's involved, right? It's a battle, it's a fight, and you're going to have to suffer if you want to win.
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't see cancer as a battle or a fight at all. I mean, you got to heal it. You're sick, you need to heal. You need to get well. That's what it is. These are your cells. It's your DNA. It's your body. You're not fighting yourself, right? You need to heal yourself.
That's true. They're creating duality and separateness from your cancer. It's like you versus the cancer.
Exactly.
As opposed to like this idea of
yourself.
Yeah.
Which really, it's a total it's like
complete paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's like it's a paradox. I thought that's what you said, but I agree. It's a paradigm shift, but it's also a paradox. It's like being bipolar. Right? Yeah. You're going to fight yourself and somehow win. So, so I get all this family pressure to go see the oncologist. They're like, will you just go see him? Just hear what he has to say. Maybe they have some alternative treatments available or something. So I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to appease the family members like every other cancer patient. So we go to the West Clinic, which is in Memphis, and the parking lot's packed. Couldn't even find a parking place. The waiting room is full. I go in, and it's like it was kind of like the first day of, the first day of school maybe. First day of college, first day of class. You're walking in, you kind of sit down and you're surveying the room, like, who else is in here with me? Like, I'm in the cancer club now. Yeah. Like, who else is in the club? And I think part of me was also like hoping to find someone maybe to connect with.
Like you or someone you could connect
Yeah,
with. Yeah.
somebody like me. No, no one like me, man. Everybody in there was twice my age,
Yeah.
and some were 3 times my age, right? I was
Mm.
26. So
Mm.
there was people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, tons of gray hair, and me with a handlebar mustache and like shaggy like hair. I'm a musician, man. I had long kind of shaggy rock dude hair, and I just thought, God, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? You know, the TV was on, and we're sitting on the couch and watching the morning show, waiting to go back to see the oncologist, and out comes Jack LaLanne.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Jack LaLanne
No
is on
way.
the morning show, and
Yeah.
he comes out and he starts going off about nutrition and juicing, and this is why we're all
As he
sick.
does.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
You know, and just this like little old man like passion, and he's saying, you know, if man made it, don't eat it, right? And,
Yeah.
I'm just like glued to the television. I cannot
Yeah.
believe it's on.
Yeah.
You know, in the moment, I needed to hear it most. It was
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, man, this is. I looked at my wife. I said, can you believe this is on right now?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, it's pretty weird. So, you know, again, I'm like, man, this is serendipity. Like, you know, God is showing. He's like
Yeah.
reminding me, like,
Yeah.
hey. So we go back and see the oncologist. I get the standard pitch, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to think about an oncologist. They see so many patients, right? And this guy doesn't know me from anybody. So he's like flipping through my chart in the back, you know,
Mm.
like, okay, who's this guy? What's he got? You know, what's the treatment for it? You know, okay. And he comes in, he's like, okay, you've got stage 3C colon cancer. You know, we're going to give you Folfox, which is 5-FU, and leucovorin, which, by the way, 5-FU, they've been using that drug for 50 years.
Yeah.
50 freaking years, man. And they haven't come up with a better drug. It's
Unbelievable.
crazy.
And to think of the billions of dollars we poured into cancer research.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. In the U.S., like, there are it's between 200,000 and 300,000 cancer patients, I believe,
mhm.
that are given 5-FU. It's fluorouracil. I mean, it's just crazy. They've been using it for 50 years, and they don't have a better drug.
Mm.
All they've done is they've added leucovorin to it, which makes it work a little better than it does by itself.
Mhm.
So I didn't know that at all. But anyway, so he told, here's what we're going to give you. And he said, look, you got about a 60% chance of living 5 years. That's what he said. And at the time, I was like, man, that's like barely better than a coin toss
Yeah.
to me. Like
Yeah.
it's like 60-40, and that's pretty close to 50-50.
Yeah.
Like, this is not inspiring much confidence.
No way. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That
so-
language, like, I mean, with what level of confidence and authority does he have to actually give that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't feeling it. And at
Mm.
that time, I'd been on the raw diet like a week.
Okay.
Okay, so
And I
on the-
hope you brought it up with him.
yeah, so I'm on it. Like, I'm doing it, man. I'm juicing. I'm eating tons of raw food. So I'm like, well, what? You know, it was either me or my wife. That's the part of the story we can't remember who said it. But one
Yeah.
of us said, well, what about the raw food diet?
hmm
And I think my wife said it. But anyway, we'll just pretend like she did for the sake of the story. Can he be on the raw food diet while he does chemotherapy? And the doctor says, no, it'll fight the chemo. And we were both like, okay. Like, I wish I'd said, what do you mean? I know what he means now.
Yeah.
But we were just like, okay. And then I asked, well, are there any alternative therapies available? And at this point, he was starting to figure out that I wasn't really on board,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that I'd been reading and researching. And he got very arrogant, very condescending, and was like, no, there are no alternative therapies available. If you don't do chemotherapy, you're insane. Yeah, man. I mean, it was intense.
Mm.
And I walked into that clinic confident in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I walked out of that meeting. I mean, the rest of the meeting with him was a total blur.
Yeah.
You know, it was like
yeah. After that, you were just like gone.
fear, man. The fear just took over, and I just like kind of like zoned out. I don't even remember what else he said, really.
Yeah. Mm.
And I walked out of his office and went just like a zombie. Like, went to the desk and made an appointment to get a port put in to start chemotherapy.
Jeez.
I mean, it was just like he was just like had manipulated me, you know. And then we walked out to my wife's car and sat in her car, and we just cried, and we were just terrified, you know. And we held hands and prayed, and you know, it was one of the lowest points of that time. I was so afraid. But fortunately, I had several weeks before they could start chemotherapy because I was still recovering from surgery.
Sure.
So I had time to continue doing what I was doing and like get my wits about me, and like kind of really think about my situation. I was thinking about this book and thinking about the Sloppy Joe and thinking about Jack LaLanne, and thinking about the weird stuff he said, like it'll fight the chemo. What that means is, when you're on a raw food diet, it's a very aggressive detoxification diet. And the chemo doesn't work as well when you're on a raw food diet. Like your body identifies it as poison.
So it pulls it out.
It'll kick it out faster, right?
Yeah.
Than it would if you were just, all kind of clogged up with processed.
So you need like a meat, dairy, processed grains diet in order to be able for chemo to work the best.
Yeah. That's why that's what they tell cancer patients, like you need to eat a lot of calories. That's all they say. You need a lot of calories, eat, ice cream and pizza and milkshakes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, they tell them this every day.
Just
every day.
Clog it up so that chemo can like stay in there.
As much as you want. Yeah, all the doctors care about is that they don't get too underweight.
Emaciated or underweight.
Yeah.
Thin.
So So picking up the story here, I was just thinking about my life, and it was like there were two paths, right? There were two paths in front of me, and one path was the wide paved road that was brightly lit that everyone was going down.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that road led to an express train, and they're all getting on the chemo train, and just all their needs are met. They have all the support they could ever want. The train has got these nice, comfy chairs in it. They can just sit back and relax and do nothing, right, and be treated. But there's immediate suffering, right? And at the end of the line, there's no guarantee they're going to be well or even alive. And then on my right hand was a jungle, right, like a jungle path, sign that says "Do not enter," right? Everyone around me saying, "Don't go that way."
Family and friends, people who love you, and the doctors and the medical fraternity. Yep.
And yet I knew that was the path, man. I knew I had to go that way. I was like, that's the way I've got to go. And I knew I would be alone. Like I knew I would be like hacking my way through it alone in the dark. And it was really scary. Like both options were really, really scary. It wasn't, they were just both terrifying. There was go this way and suffer and maybe die, and go this way and you might prolong your suffering, but you still might die, and you're going to look like a fool.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to say, don't do what he did. You're going to be the example that people talk about, And so, my ego didn't like that very much either, right? Chris the fool. So, but man, like I said, I knew that was the path. I knew that I just fully trusted that if God had opened if he had brought me that book and brought me this information and that he was showing me which way to go, that he'd lead me through it. And I just had to exercise some very simple faith that was what was happening, right? Like this is what I'm going to choose to believe.
That's very courageous of you, Chris. That's big.
It did. Thank you. And it didn't feel like courage. It just felt like survival. I didn't feel brave or courageous at all. I was very afraid. Which reminds me of one of my favorite quotes is, if you're scared, do it scared.
That's cool. I like it. So just don't not do it. Just do it scared.
Yeah. I mean, if you're scared, do it scared. So, so I continued with the diet. The port appointment, came and went. I was a no-show. Just didn't go.
Yeah.
And the clinic's calling, trying to, talk me into it. Well, we missed your appointment. They send me a certified letter. Your doctor's concerned about your health. Please call us immediately. That was back then. We had like a physical answering machine, right, in the house. So, there's like messages on there, but I felt so good. Like I had so much. I not only felt good physically from what I was doing, but like mentally, I felt really good, and I had so much just like peace in my heart about what I was doing, and excitement about the future. And there was another factor too, is they said you probably won't be able to have kids if you have chemotherapy. It'll probably make you sterile. And I had goals. Like I had plans for my life. Like I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to. Cancer made me start thinking about what I wanted out of life. Because before that, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just thinking about making money. Really, you know what I mean? I was married, I had a beautiful wife. Yeah, maybe have kids someday, but right now I'm just like building a business and like trying to make money and be successful and musician and doing that stuff. And all of a sudden I was like, what really matters? Like cancer has a way of just stripping everything extemporaneous out of your life.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I want? And so I realized I want a family. Like I want to have some children. Like I want to experience being a father. I want to have that life experience and maybe a grandfather.
Yeah.
So it was another reason to, another strike against chemotherapy in my book. And my wife and I, we decided right away, like, okay, let's try to have a kid. So, I mean, this was, she got pregnant about 4 months later.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and it wasn't an accident. I mean, it was us like consciously, and I think she was even more brave than me.
Yeah.
Being willing, she loved me so much that she was willing to have my child, not knowing if I would even be alive to help raise it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it gets me a little choked up thinking about it. So, but anyway, man, so to sort of back up, we talked about the phase 1, which was the diet I just talked about. I took tons of supplements. I found a local nutritionist, naturopath kind of guy.
Yeah.
That was the first person that told me I was making the right decision, which was
That's
huge.
so cool to find that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. And I saw him the day after I went to the chemo clinic.
Sure.
The very next day, my mom, again, the health nut, my mom actually did support me. My mom was the only person, that was like, I support you. I think you're doing the right thing. I don't think you should.
That's nice. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. And Mom had a bunch of books too about alternative cancer therapies.
Unbelievable.
She's always been a nutrition nut, and it had a huge library, stacks and stacks of books about health and nutrition. And she had
That's funny that circle, huh? How things come around like that, I
mean, it's miraculous. She had books by Paul Bragg.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I'm interviewing Patricia Bragg like next week, which is
amazing. She is such a darling. Oh my goodness, the 5 foot with the pink cowboy hat. She's amazing.
Yes. I can't wait. So, but she had so I had all these books, and all of a sudden, as soon as I started looking for information, my mom was like, "Oh yeah, I've got that book. I've got this book," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" like every book I would read, there would be other book recommendations that my mom already had.
Yeah.
So it started me on this really kind of crazy and exciting journey of discovery. And I found Dr. Richard Schultz, and I did the 30-day Incurables program that he does, which is like hardcore juice fasting and like herbal detoxification stuff. And
what is the herbal detoxification part of it? Because I wanted to ask you a little bit about the herbal teas element of your protocol.
Lot of teas. Yeah, there was a lot. There was like anybody can look this up. His website is herbdoc.com, but he has a program called the Incurables program, and it's a 30 days, and there's like certain days you drink certain detox teas and tinctures. It's a raw food diet, which was great because I was already doing that, and lots of juicing. And so, but it's a lot of the herbal detox protocols, like Hulda Clark's protocol. A lot of them use the same stuff, like red clover and burdock root and slippery elm bark and sheep sorrel, Essiac tea. So
Essiac tea, yeah.
Essiac and Hoxie and Dr. John Christopher and Hulda Clark. I mean, they're all herbalists, and they all are kind of using similar formulas. So, so I did all kinds of stuff like that. And even my nutritionist had some herbal tinctures that he had me taking. So I was just like, dude, I'll take anything. It's not chemo. If I need to drink my own urine, like I'll do it. Right? I didn't though. Still haven't had to do that. But I say that just to say that every cancer patient that I know that's healed has the same attitude. And it's basically I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Right? I'll do whatever it takes to get well. I don't care what it tastes like. Like, I will do it. Right. And I think that's so critical. And the sad thing is that a lot of conventional cancer patients have the same attitude. And they think doing whatever it takes means suffering through these brutal treatments.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have very strong wills to live. Some cancer patients don't, by the way, and it's okay. Like some people are ready to die, and it's fine, right? They just don't have a strong will to live, and it's okay. But the ones that do, when they go through conventional treatment, what happens is that treatment is so brutal, it eventually, they just get tired of suffering, you know, and they lose the will to live. Because, you know, we've all seen the way it goes. You know, they go through these brutal therapies, the cancer's gone for a little while, or the tumor shrinks, and they think it's like a big cause to celebrate because the tumor shrunk a little bit. And, you know, they're very optimistic, and they're feeling hopeful, and things are great. And then a few months go by, and they have another scan, and oh, whoops, now it's back, or it's spread, or it's twice as big as it was before the you know, at the end of treatment. And then it's okay, here we go again, like, we're going to give you some new drugs because the old drugs don't work now. They get all these new brutal drugs, which that's plan B. Plan B never works as well as plan A. And it's always more brutal. And so, you know, man, after just round after round of chemo and radiation and hospital visits and surgery and problems and secondary infections, you know, man, it's just the patient gets so tired of suffering that they lose their will to live. And that's really sad. And that's usually when they go downhill pretty quickly after that. But I had this strong will to live, and nothing was beating me down. You know, the only thing I had to face every day was fear. You know, the fear was definitely real, and the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, the fear of suffering, the fear of, you know, cancer coming back or whatever. And so every day I just had to give my fear to God. You know, I just had to let it go and just say, like, I'm not going to be afraid, because I would feel it, right? I'd feel the fear, and I just have to catch myself and say, I'm not going to be afraid. I trust you. Like, you're in control. I'm just laying it down. Like, I'm giving you my fear. And that was just a discipline, you know, that I had to constantly work on.
Exercise.
Exercising, not letting fear take over and rule my mind, and really focus on joy, you know what I mean? And like being thankful and loving my life, and you know, and just like taking, like, gratitude is the secret to happiness. It just really is. And it's hard to really be grateful unless you've gone through some type of really difficult situation. I mean, difficulties in life, they not only set you up for blessing. I mean, I believe that 100%. Problems always set you up for a big blessing. But also they teach you how to be so grateful and for the good things. You know, I mean, it's just like being sick. I mean, you know, you get the flu, you feel like just, you know, you want to die for like a week. And then when you get better, you're like, oh man, it feels so good to be like not sick.
It's true. It's like the whole darkness and light situation. You know, you can't really experience one fully without experiencing the other. You know?
That's right. And so I was, you know, I just had a dramatic shift mentally too, where I realized I really took a hard look at myself, my emotions and thoughts, and I realized, man, I was a very negative, bitter, cynical, judgmental, critical, unhappy guy. You know, I just had let like negative emotions, I'd let them, I hate to say rule me, but I'd let them take up space in my life.
Well, it's understandable. I mean, to go through the messaging and the diagnosis and the language from the medical profession, that plants that seed for sure.
It does. But even before that, I mean, like I'm saying, leading up to cancer, I was entertaining a lot of negativity in my mind, you know, just jealousy and envy and being critical of others. You know, there's all this stuff. And I just had to, again, this is full circle, because I said it in the beginning, if you have cancer, you must assume the way you're living is killing you. And I realized that it wasn't just the diet, the standard American diet, which is so unhealthy, but just the stress in my life, my thoughts, my attitudes, my emotions. It was just all toxic. It was. I mean, I don't want to say all 100%, but there was a significant amount in there that I had to be like, you know what? I just have to change the way I think. I've got to stop. Like, I've got to catch myself when I'm being critical of someone, right? And just be like, you know what? That's wrong. Like,
see love in everybody.
It's wrong thinking. Like, I'm just not going to think that way, you know? And it's just it's like you said, it's a discipline. It's a practice. You've got to exercise, like really taking control of your thoughts, because so many people let their thoughts and their emotions rule their life, you know? So, man, so many lessons, you know, learned in the process.
Amazing.
Fast forward to, you know, people, I'm sure listening or watching are wondering, so how did you know when you were cancer-free or whatever? You're never cancer-free. Everyone has cancer in their body. The only difference between someone with tumors and someone with no tumors is their immune system, essentially. So it was a slow process of just rebuilding my body and with food, because we're made out of food.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
You are what you ate.
Yeah.
And so just one bite at a time, man, I was building a new body. And what really I thought was so cool is I read somewhere years ago that, within about a year, you've rebuilt an entirely new body.
Yeah. Deepak Chopra talks about that. Yeah.
Pretty close to it. It takes about a year. I mean, some little parts may take a little longer, but the point is most of your body is a whole new body, many times over, depending on the part of your body, in a year. And I'm, wow, yeah, like I'm building a new body that will be inhospitable to cancer. Like I'm building a body where cancer cannot thrive, because cancer thrives in a sick body. And so I just stayed the course. We made some diet modifications along the way. Like I started eating more cooked vegetables because I needed more calories. Just some stuff like that. My nutritionist was like, hey, man, why don't you start eating sweet potatoes and brown rice and lentils and quinoa with dinner? That'll give you some more calories. And I'm like, okay. I thought I was going to be a raw foodist forever, but that was only 90 days. And then we started, it was like, okay, I'm too skinny. I look like the skeleton from Jack from A Nightmare Before Christmas. So, yeah.
That's when mom gets really worried too. They're like, oh my God, not your mom, but like.
She really, my mom actually wasn't worried, but everyone else was, because I was totally orange. Everyone thought I was jaundiced.
Because of the carrot juice.
Yeah, I thought I was jaundiced, and I was like emaciated because I've done all this fasting, juice fasting, water fasting, raw foods.
They're all like, he should have done the chemo.
Yeah. I felt great.
Oh, no.
But I looked in the mirror and I was like, man, I don't look great though. I'm so skinny right now. So we had some cooked food. He actually recommended that I eat a couple servings of animal protein, wild caught salmon and organic lamb. And I was like, hey man, I just want to live. Like whatever you say, if you think it'll help me. He said, yeah, I just think you need more protein right now. I think your body needs more protein. It needs some concentrated protein a couple times a week. Why don't you try this? So I was like, dude, that's cool. Like, I just want to live. I trust you. So I did that, and that helped some. It's just really for calories. And then, we had blood work every month. I had CAT scans every 6 months for a few years. I found an integrative oncologist who was this old doctor that had retired and came back out of retirement because he was just, didn't like being retired, basically. His name was Dr. Roy Page. He's deceased now, but he had this office in like a bad part of town, like an old hospital in a bad part of town, and he was just awesome. Like, I love this man so much because he, when I went to see him, he gave me the standard. He kind of gave me the standard. Well, for your type of cancer, the recommended treatment is, chemotherapy or whatever.
He sort of has to. He has to.
As he was talking, I could tell he had no conviction about it at all.
Sure.
It's just like, I have to say this to cover my ass to this patient right now. Yeah. And then once I said, I'm not going to do that, and then he was like, okay. We did vitamin C IVs.
Yeah. Wow. Good. Nice.
Yeah. He was researching. I mean, the guy was in his 70s. He was researching, Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine. Like, he still wanted to learn and help people. And,
wow.
Was very much into glyconutrition and aloe. So he turned me on to that. So he was just a wonderful blessing and ally to have at the time.
How important was it for you to have people in your team like that? I mean, because so many people, like you said, there was those two paths. And one is like well paved, lots of people, lots of support, but it's that path. And this one is like you're on your own, good luck, and
Man, it's so important. And I have to say, I had a little bit of an unfair advantage because I'm an only child. I've always been alone, right? And so, I've always just kind of been, man, I was like into punk rock and a musician, like always kind of been on the fringe and comfortable, like not being in the mainstream of whatever. Like, I love The Cure and the Pixies and New Order and Sonic Youth, man,
And Propaganda, probably.
There you go. So, like, anything that was sort of alternative and different, I was always interested in. Yeah. And so when it came time to make this decision of the going it alone, like, I was more comfortable doing that. Sure. And maybe a lot of people would be.
Yeah. That's why I think also punk rock music, if you think, I used to be in a punk rock band when I was at school and after I left high school as well, so I understand. And I think what probably attracted you about that was that they had these thoughts about society that differed from the mainstream. They said, look,
Sure.
I don't know that we should really be trusting, the powers that be, because their interests are aligned a lot differently than us as individuals. And I think that's really opened it up. And even with Food Matters, I mean, if you look at the credits, you'll see I thank Chris Hanna from Propaganda in there.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and I sent it to him and I said, watch the credits, and he sent me an email back. I nearly retired after that email already, but because it was so great to hear from him. But I think that there's a lot to be said about that you had that alternative viewpoint already. You had this lack of trust. Maybe it was for the medical profession, maybe it was for the government or regulatory bodies that govern medicine or food and drugs.
Right.
So then I can understand how it felt choosing an alternative path. It's like, well, that fits almost with what you believe in already.
It fit. Yeah, it fit me. I mean, I'd been just been accustomed to not fitting in for a long time. I guess maybe a nonconformist or whatever. So, but having support, but I still needed support though, man. I mean, just having my mom and a nutritionist and an oncologist, that was all I had, but it was enough for me. And it's so funny because now I joke, this is sort of a thing I joke about a lot, but now is the best time to be diagnosed with cancer. It's way better than it was in 2004.
Sure.
Because now in 2004, there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
No. It didn't exist.
No.
YouTube started in 2007.
Wow. Okay,
no
so
YouTube.
You think about all these communities and online information and video programs or series or documentaries even. I mean, it was
you couldn't really watch video on the internet in 2004. Like, connections were too slow. If there was any video, it would be like some short little clip. There was no Facebook, no YouTube, no Twitter, no social media. I didn't find any information on the internet about cancer. And not to say that there wasn't maybe some out there, but the websites are really sketchy and didn't inspire much confidence.
Yeah,
and so everything I learned just came from a handful of books.
Yeah.
And so I had very little to go on. And it was, fortunately, the handful of books that I did read all kind of said the same thing.
Yeah.
Raw foods, juicing, supplementation, your emotions, forgiveness, getting rid of stress, getting all the toxins out of your house. And, if you work in a chemical factory, you should probably quit, that kind of advice.
Or a dry cleaners.
So, the dry cleaners. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
that's super toxic. So I had a handful of books, which in some ways, I guess, made it kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I mean, man, there's so many. My site alone has over 50 survivor interviews of people that have healed.
Yeah, amazing.
And there's so many more on YouTube, and there's all these groups on Facebook. I mean, it's so easy to find information now. But the flip side is, it's information overload.
Yeah,
that people are suffering from. Yeah, and so what I've done with chrisbeatcancer.com, my website, is try to. My website is overload for people. Like, there's a couple hundred articles on there and interviews and videos. It's too much for people already, which I totally understand. So we created a coaching program called Square One, where basically we just take people and say, look, you want to change your life, you want to change your diet, you need a roadmap. Here it is.
Start here.
This is where you start. This is exactly what you do, and it's been just really. The site's been around for 5 years, but Square One actually launches this month. So it's something I've been working on for a while.
Oh, that's so exciting. How cool.
Yeah. Because in the beginning, I didn't feel like people needed it. But then as, things have just really accelerated. And now I just get so many emails from people they have so many questions. They don't know where to start. They can't read something. They just read this or that or the other. And they're just so confused, man. So anyway, I'm really excited about that, and we created another really neat thing called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist, which is a free guide.
That's cool.
That cancer patients, they can, maybe you can put a link to it or whatever. But
I feel sorry for the oncologists.
Oh man, I'm telling you,
do you believe that your emotions and how you think about yourself, or whether you love yourself or not, affects the outcomes for cancer treatment? They're going to be like, excuse me,
There's this guy, it's an audio, and it's like a printed question list and a transcript. It's totally free. I mean, just download it from the site. But the thing is, these are the best questions. Like I've surveyed, from my own experience, I've surveyed doctors, I've surveyed cancer patients, and the biggest problem cancer patients have is they don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't even know. Like they don't know anything about anything, and so
Yeah.
they just get a pitch. The doctor says you got to do this, and they're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But when you ask the right questions, like, what's the 5-year survival for this treatment? Like,
Yeah.
tell me about these drugs. What are the long-term side effects? What
Yeah.
are the short-term side effects? Like, how long have you been using this drug? Like I said earlier, 5FU, you've been using it 50 years. I mean,
I think a good question would be, would you take this drug yourself if you were diagnosed with my particular cancer?
It's in there, man.
Great.
That question is in there.
Good.
Absolutely. And so it's just great because I've gotten so much amazing feedback.
I feel sorry for the oncologists, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of the oncologists, you know.
If they see a patient coming in like this with their clipboard, where is it? Their clipboard ready to go, and they're like, "Uh-oh, we got one of them." You know,
some oncologists will get very irritated. But look, man, if you're a
it's
cancer
your
patient,
body.
this is
It's your body.
life.
Exactly. I totally
This
agree
is
with
your
you.
life. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about offending some doctor that
Absolutely.
is not even going to know your name if they see you in the grocery store tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we need to move like as far away as possible from this whole idea of abjugating our responsibility and giving up our bodies to the medical profession, to this institution that's been up on the hill that we used to go and praise and say, please heal us. I mean, the power's shifting, and now it's about becoming your own case manager.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to. No one is going to take better care of you than you will.
Precisely.
And again, we put way too much faith. Look, doctors are great. If I break my leg, I'm going to the doctor. Like, I'm not going to put herbs on it.
Yeah. Or maybe a comfrey compress after you.
Yeah, there you go.
After you've set the bone. But yeah, I get it. I get it.
But I mean, the point is, like, medicine has come a long way. Obviously, we've reduced infectious disease and sanitation and hygiene has a lot to do with that too. But
absolutely,
emergency care and acute medicine, and fixing gunshot wounds and broken bones.
Couldn't agree more.
Like,
yep.
Saving people from heart attacks, like, that's amazing. I have so much respect for that. But the cancer industry, and I know we're probably running out of time, but let me just say this one thing, because I think it's so such a mind blower, that the overall death rate from cancer has only decreased 5% in 60 years.
Jeez.
In 60 years. So since they started chemotherapy, which is in the 1950s, the overall death rate has only come down 5%. You can Google this. It's well documented. And it's been a dismal failure to save lives or to cure cancer. There are 3 cancers they've actually made big progress on. That's lymphoma, leukemia, childhood leukemia, and testicular cancer. Okay? Those 3 they've made great progress. But the main cancer killers, breast, colon, lung, ovarian, brain cancer, liver cancer, dismal failure to improve survival. Or really to cure it. They improve survival because they detect it earlier, and it looks like people are surviving longer, but they're just finding it earlier.
Yeah.
So anyway, questions along those lines are in my 20 questions guide too. But I mean, that's the thing that patients need to know. It's like, hey, we're putting way too much faith in a segment of the medical industry that is actually not working. Like, this is the worst segment of medicine, cancer treatment.
And the amount of money we're pouring into it. I mean, since the government declared war on cancer in the 50s and 60s, the amount of money and the charities, which all goes to drug companies, which all goes to just cementing their patents and their stronghold on the drug industry and making money off and profiting from it, which is, if you start to really follow the economics of it, which is what we did in Food Matters, which really cracked me open and our family, because my dad was struggling with severe chronic fatigue syndrome, adrenal burnout, depression, and anxiety, and followed that well-lit path and ended up on 6 different medications and completely sick and bedridden and overweight, and we had to help guide him back. But it's really, and I believe we're going through some form of great awakening. Maybe we're optimistic, but I believe it's true. I mean, like you said, there was none of this information that was easily disseminated online at the time of your diagnosis. Now you look, what are we now? We're 12 years later?
12 years.
12 years later. And look at the information, the people, the shining beacon of light and hope. I mean, just if you look at how many documentaries we have on alternative cancer treatments on FM TV alone, I mean, there's so many of them, and your story and other people that have gone through it. I mean, we are in a totally different era now, and I'm optimistic for the future.
I'm totally optimistic. I mean, look, the tide is definitely turning. There will be a tipping point. I think it'll happen in our lifetime. And it's mostly because of you, like what you're doing, what I'm doing, social media. I mean, because so many people now, social media has leveled the playing field for information. And so information is so quickly disseminated, to thousands of people when something like valuable is put out there. And people recognize it, like they recognize it when it's valuable, and when it's true, it rings true to them. I mean, the simple truth that, junk food is poison and toxic, and it produces disease in the body. Man-made processed food is the reason that so many of us are sick, and that whole foods, fruits and vegetables, a diet that's rich in those, produces health. I mean, look, this is simple stuff. Right?
So the truth is simple. So I want to ask you just a few more questions, if you don't mind, as we come to the end here. We'll come towards the end, but I wanted to think about people that have a loved one that has a chronic illness. Like, for instance, myself, it was my dad, and for your wife, it was you. And luckily, we found a path and we found healing in our families, and that's been a huge blessing for us, and we hope that many other families find it, and that's why we're committed to doing what we do. As a guest, I'm guessing that's why you do it. And so how do people that are out there right now potentially listening to this, and they have a loved one that has a chronic illness, and if they've got something themselves, they can work on that directly, but how do you help convince people to get on this path? I mean, what's your strategy to do it? Because it's not easy to bring up around the dinner table.
I love that. I love this question so much, and my answer will probably be what people don't expect to hear. But sometimes I learned this the hard way. But usually, the people you want to help the most are the people you can't help.
Yeah, wow. And
it's amazing that you were able to help your dad, right? Because I'm surrounded, there are people around me in my close circle that, have some real health problems and can't help them. I've had 5 family members diagnosed with cancer since I was diagnosed, related and extended family. Guess how many asked me for advice?
3?
It's 0.
No.
Zero.
No.
0, man.
There's a truth in what you're saying, though. There's a truth in what you're saying,
This is my family, of course. They can have all my time. I'm the cancer guy. Like, people are trying to talk to me from all over the world, literally, and they can have me as much as they want, and they don't even ask for one piece of advice. So, and it's okay. Like, it's their life, it's their choices. But yeah, it's really hard to help people that don't want your help. And so what I had to learn pretty quickly. And I was a little discouraged at first because you want to help everybody, and then you realize you just can't. So I focus on helping the people that want my help, and that is a joy. Life is so much better when I just let go and don't worry about the people that I really want to help but don't want my help. And I just focus all my energy and attention on the people that do. And so, but to not be a completely negative, downer, the best thing you can do to try to help someone is to send them information, right? I mean, it just starts with a documentary movie. It starts with, there's an 11-minute video on my site called What Every Cancer Patient Needs to Know. It's the first video that someone sees when they land on the site. I think I created it because I thought that was the best thing for a new cancer patient to watch. So it's 11 minutes. And if someone went to my site, or if somebody sent someone they loved to my site and they watch that video, either it's going to click with them or it isn't, right? Yeah. If it clicks, if the light bulb goes on, then all of a sudden they have at their disposal all these wonderful interviews and testimonials of people that have healed, talking about exactly what they did, and just all this wonderful information, and they can start the healing journey. If it doesn't click, then they're just going to go back to conventional therapies or whatever, and it's fine. And you just kind of have to, if you're listening to this or watching this and you really want to help somebody, at some point, there's a certain amount of helping you can try to do, and then you just have to let them go if they're resistant to it. Like, you can't force them to do it. I have people contact me often that say, will you can I pay you to talk to my mom? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, my sister or
Or
my
my
husband.
uncle or my
Yeah.
aunt. Yeah.
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
Like, no, you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the patient has to be in the driver's seat.
Mm.
You can't heal someone by proxy. Like, you can be the navigator, though. Like, if they're in the driver's seat and they want to get well and they're like going for it and they're taking control of their life, you can be like the best navigator in the world riding shotgun. But you can't be the one in the driver's seat dragging them along, trying to get them to juice or take some supplements or no, don't eat the cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I know. I totally with you on that. And going through my father's case, I think there's like 3 or 4 steps in the process. The first one is education, like watching that video on your site or watching Food Matters or some interviews with some experts or the Truth About Cancer series or whatever it might be, right? So you get that education, and then all of a sudden that creates a shift in your belief systems. A shift in how you believe your body works, how you believe the medical profession works. And then once you have that shift in belief, which you may or may not have, and like you said, it's okay if you do not have that. That's fine. That's your chosen path. But I believe that everyone
hope they do.
Yeah, everyone should have access to that information. That's my big mission, is how can I help provide more accessibility to this type of information. And then once they have access to the information, there's a shift in belief systems. And we all know that your belief systems or the conditioning of your subconscious mind affects the choices in your life. And once you change the choices in your life, you completely change the outcome and the direction of your life. So it really starts from that education point. But yeah, like you said, you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. And
that's exactly right. And for me, my whole life kind of prepared me for that moment, right? And when the information came and when that alternate path opened up, the jungle path, I was ready for it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready, but I'd been sort of prepared for it, and I had enough life experience or conditioning or whatever you want to call it to step out into the unknown. Yeah. And that's what people are most afraid of. They're afraid of the unknown, and that's where faith comes in, right? Nice. Faith involves trusting in something bigger than you and stepping out into the unknown. Nice. And but it's also can be very exciting too. Like, it's an adventure. Yeah. And so that's the way that I hope people, anyone who's trying to get well, if they're looking at it like a chore and drudgery,
it's not healing.
It's the wrong. The wrong attitude. You have to embrace it and just look at it like an adventure. You know, and treat it like one. And you keep learning and growing and figuring stuff out. And thinking is hard. Like reason is hard. It's hard when you read a lot of stuff that conflicts. Yeah, true. Because then you have to make sense of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're so used to just being given answers to everything. Like, that when you actually research and realize, wait a minute, there's lots of opinions. I have to internalize this and mull it over and connect my own dots and experiment. I mean, healing is experimental in some ways. You're trying things and you have to measure and see if they work. Like, is the tumor shrinking? Yes or no? That's the measurement. Is it working? Right? Yeah. Or has it stopped growing at least? Right. That's a positive. That what you're doing may be working. But I've just enjoyed talking to you so much because we're so aligned.
Great. Yeah.
You're putting things out there. I mean, we're doing the same thing. Like, you're putting information out so that people can find it. And that's the purpose of my site. That's why I started doing it, because I wanted my site to be what I wished had existed for me. Sure. In 2004. Nice. Because I didn't find anything. There was just nothing there. On the internet that. Again, I looked and there was nothing. It was just nothing. So I was back to the books.
It's true. So, Chris, to finish up here, I would like to just ask, what's a message you'd like to leave for people, either that have cancer, that have just been diagnosed, or if they're, healthy and well and they want to try be more healthy or help a family member. What's the sort of message and vision and lifestyle philosophy you want to just leave them with right now?
It's going to take me another hour.
In 2 minutes.
So, yeah, if I can really distill it down to the most important things. One is, if you're diagnosed with cancer, you have options. You have time, unless the tumor's threatening to close up your windpipe or something, right? But for most cancer patients, you have time to read and research change your life, right? To really evaluate your life, and don't let anyone rush you into anything, okay, that goes against your instincts or intuition. So that's the message for cancer patients, right? Read, research, learn, examine your life. You have time. For the person that wants, that is cancer conscious, right? That doesn't have cancer, but they're like, hey, I've seen people suffer, would like to grow old and die in their sleep, which is my life goal.
Yeah.
Next to my wife, preferably on the same day. We know there are so many causes of cancer. I mean, and it can be a little crazy because it seems like every time we turn around, they're like, "This is everything causes cancer."
Yeah.
But the truth is, the rates of cancer exploded in the world after the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That's when factory food, factory employees, like factory work started. Mm-hmm. Industrially produced chemicals became very widespread, and factory farming and factory produced food became widespread. And so there are still parts of the world with very low cancer rates that have not been westernized. So when you look at the cancer rates in India, China, rural parts of all these nations, obviously the rural areas, Africa, South America, some of the lowest cancer rates in the world, there are 40 plus countries that have a third of the overall cancer rates than the US and Australia. And it's not genetic, right? It's not genetic. It's not their DNA. It's not that. It's their diet and lifestyle. And there's so much wonderful epidemiological research that has basically shows us how they eat and live, and it's very simple. These are people that eat a plant-based diet, tons of fruits and vegetables. Starches are wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. And very little meat and dairy. Right? None of them are 100% vegan. But a lot of them are 98%, anywhere from 90 to 99% plant-based. So the more fruits and vegetables in your diet, the better. And the less meat and dairy in your diet, the better. But you don't have to be 100% vegan to be healthy, which is fine. Like some people want to be, and that's great. Some people still want to eat meat every once in a while. That's fine. But if it's like 1% of your diet, you're good. Like you don't have any risk. And then, of course, there's the whole processed food angle, you got to get away from, right? All the man-made processed food, not good. So you got to cut that out of your life. And then, I'm trying to summarize it, but essentially,
you're doing a great job.
There's three major causes of cancer, right? There's diet and lifestyle, there's pollution, and stress. Okay, so the diet and lifestyle angle is what I'm talking about right now. Being sedentary promotes disease. Being overweight promotes cancer. It's the second leading cause of cancer is obesity. Yep. Smoking is the number one cause of cancer. Drinking, excessive alcohol causes cancer. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are very unhealthy for you that are going to promote disease. So not doing those things is a great step, like systematically sort of transitioning toward a healthier way of living. Second thing is pollution, like trying to get away from it as much as you can. Like, if you work in a toxic factory, like you should probably change your job.
Or if your house is full of toxic chemicals.
Remove the chemicals from your house. If you live near an industrial area, that you should be very concerned. If you need to filter your drinking water and get the chlorine and fluoride and who knows what else is in it out of there. And then the third big factor is stress, because stress suppresses your immune system, and unforgiveness and bitterness and negativity and being critical and judgmental. And, if you don't forgive yourself and you hate yourself, those negative emotions are so profoundly destructive in the body, and they will physically suppress. This is not like, theoretical. This is physical suppression of your immune function. And if you live under in a state of chronic stress from your work, your finances, your relationships, right? Hating yourself, being ashamed, or, bitter towards others. Like you just have all these negative emotions circulating all the time in your mind. You're going to be in a state of chronic immunosuppression, and you will be vulnerable to cancer. And every single cancer patient I've ever talked to, without exception, had major chronic stress in their life from all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
They all had it, major stress, and stuff from their childhood, stuff from that was, living in the middle of just crazy stress, like lawsuits and divorces and, really, really unhealthy work situations. And so that's another thing that we can actively identify and try to change before the stress breaks you down.
Yeah.
And usually there are, a lot of people are sort of teetering on the brink of disease. And then there will be one cataclysmic traumatic event that knocks them over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So I see this often. It's a divorce, it's the death of a loved one, it's a loss of a job or a career, losing their house, even losing a pet.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly, but I've seen it happen. With people. Pets are part of the family, and So again, that's the quickest summary I can give. But
that's a brilliant summary. It's amazing.
Yeah, diet and lifestyle, pollution and stress, and these are all things we can control. And the cancer industry tries to put all of the blame on genetics and DNA.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's just random mutations. There's nothing you can do. And the truth is, the latest study that came out, basically that I think is terrific. It's an epidemiological cancer study. Said, estimates that 70 to 90% of cancers are caused by diet, lifestyle, and pollution.
It's amazing. The research is there, and it's in medical journals, and yet the oncologists and the medical profession refuse to admit that it has any influence on the healing process, which is phenomenal to think. I mean, what a strange anomaly.
It is. And so your diet and lifestyle and your environment and your attitude and emotions make up the lion's share. Yeah. Right? The lion's share of your health.
So deal with that.
Yeah, right. And then don't worry about the other 5 to 10%, X factor, the things you can't control. Like, control the stuff you can control, and you're going to dramatically drop your risk of cancer. And frankly, listen, if anybody out there is going through conventional treatment, listen, that's fine. But making these changes will improve your odds of survival, absolutely without a doubt, even if you go conventional. So there's no reason not to.
Chris, you're a legend. I love what you're doing, and I'm so glad we got to have this call, and I got to speak with you one-on-one and hear your story.
Yeah, James, it's been great. I've been a huge admirer of you and your work for, I don't know, years now. I've got the Food Matters doc. Look. Man. This is it. Food
That's
matters,
so
right?
cool. So cool. Yeah.
So, I'm just so glad we got to do this.
Yeah. And, thanks for the chat. And I feel in some respects we're like kindred spirits, similar ages. Yes. We've had challenges in our life. And to hear your story of success just lights me up. And I'm going to spend the rest of the day floating on cloud nine. So great chatting. And thanks for your time. And I'm sure everybody listening to this call and interview have gotten so much out of today. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, James.